What if I told you scientists once made a baby terrified of Santa Claus, forced kids to stutter for life, and even turned college students into sadistic prison guards? These aren't movie plots. These are real experiments, approved, funded, and published, that push the human mind to its limits. And the creepiest part, they still shape psychology today. Let's dive into the darkest corners of science you were never supposed to know. Number 1, the monster study picture. This, you're a kid in the 1930s, life's already tough, you're growing up in an orphanage. And then just for fun, some researchers decide to mess with your ability to speak. Welcome to the monster study. Sounds like a horror film, right? Sadly, it's not. It was real. In 1939, researchers split orphaned kids into 2 groups. One got positive speech therapy, lots of encouragement. The other, constant criticism and negative reinforcement. Don't stutter. Stop messing up. Speak properly. The result, kids in the negative group developed speech issues, anxiety, and lifelong self-esteem problems. Why? The researchers wanted to see if they could induce stuttering in perfectly normal kids. Spoiler, they could. This little slice of psychological horror was so controversial it wasn't even published for decades. And the kicker, it taught us a lot about how feedback shapes speech, but at what cost? So yeah, remember this one next time someone tells you, words can't hurt. Number 2, the Little Albert Experiment. Okay, imagine you're a baby. You love soft, fluffy animals. Rabbits adorable, white rats. So cute. Now imagine every time you touch one, a scientist smashes a steel bar with a hammer behind your head. Congratulations, you've just been recruited into the Little Albert Experiment. In 1920, John B. Watson and Rosalie Reimer conditioned a baby, yes, a literal infant, to fear fuzzy things. Thanks to their efforts, poor little Albert went from happily petting animals to crying at the mere sight of anything white and fluffy, including reportedly Santa Claus beard. This study showed how fears can be learned. Great for science, awful for Albert. Did they ever decondition him? Nope. He probably grew up terrified of Easter bunnies or shag carpets or grandmas in white sweaters. Number 3, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Ah yes, the psychological train wreck you probably already know about. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo turned a Stanford basement into a mock prison. Students were randomly assigned as guards or prisoners. The plan: observed for 2 weeks. It lasted 6 days. Why? Because things went full Lord of the Flies. The guards became sadistic. The prisoners broke down emotionally, some even begging to leave. Zimbardo. He just watched. The takeaway. Apparently you can turn regular college kids into authoritarian nightmares with a whistle and a pair of sunglasses. Also, fun fact, Zimbardo was so deep in his prison warden role, he didn't shut it down until an outsider called him out. Yikes. Number 4, the Milgram shock experiments. You're sitting in a lab in the 1960s. A guy in a white coat tells you to press a button that zaps another person in the next room. Each wrong answer. You turn up the voltage, the screams start, then begging, then silence. Do you stop or keep pressing the button because the experiment requires it? Welcome to Stanley Milgram's shock experiments, where 65% of participants went all the way to delivering what they thought was a fatal 450-volt shock. The victim wasn't really being electrocuted, it was an actor, but the participants didn't know that. This study revealed something terrifying. Ordinary people will obey authority even when it means torturing someone. Basically, your inner rebel isn't as strong as you think. And Milgram? He said this proved how Nazi atrocities could happen, not because people were evil, but because they were obedient. So yeah, trust issues with people in lab coats. Totally justified. Number 5, the Landis facial expression study. Here's a fun one. In 1924, psychologist Carney Landis wanted to map human facial expressions. He invited volunteers to sniff ammonia, watch porn, and wait for it to decapitate live rats. Yep. He literally asked random college students to cut the heads off rats with a knife. Most hesitated, but about 2/3 actually did it. The others watched as Landis finished the job himself. This wasn't some sick hazing ritual, it was all for science. And what did he learn? that facial expressions aren't universal and his experiment was basically pointless. So not only traumatizing, but also a total waste of rats. Thanks, Carney. Number 6. The Bobo doll experiment. Ever see a kid punch something because they saw someone else do it? Turns out that's not random. In the 1960s, psychologist Albert Bandura showed kids a video of adults beating up inflatable Bobo dolls, punching, kicking, even hitting them with hammers. Later, when left alone, the kids went full WWE on the poor dolls. This proved observational learning kids copy what they see, which is great if they're watching Sesame Street, less great if they're watching John Wick. Basically, Bobo dolls sacrificed their dignity to prove your little brother really is copying everything you do. Number 7. The Rosenhan Experiment. Imagine checking yourself into a psychiatric hospital by saying, "I hear voices." Once admitted, you act totally normal. No symptoms. Just chilling. How long before the staff realizes you're faking? In the 1970s, psychologist David Rosenhan and 7 pseudo-patients pulled this off. The answer: some were stuck for weeks. Doctors labeled their normal behaviors as symptoms of schizophrenia. Even their note-taking was called obsessive behavior. This little social experiment blew up psychiatry, showing how hard it was to tell a sanity from insanity once a label was slapped on you. The scariest part: the hospital staff never caught them. It was other patients who whispered, "You're not crazy, are you?" So yeah, your therapist asking how are you feeling just got a whole lot spicier. Number 8, the Good Samaritan Experiment. Here's a thought experiment. You're late for an important meeting. On the way, you see someone collapsed on the sidewalk. Do you stop and help? In 1973, researchers tested seminary students, yes, future priests, by putting them in this exact situation. The result: those who weren't in a rush helped way more often, but the ones running late most literally stepped over the injured person to get to their destination. So apparently being in a hurry can override even your holy calling. Forget angels and devils on your shoulders, turns out your calendar app is running the show. Number 9. The Robbers Cave Experiment. Summer camp. S'more swimming and psychological manipulation. In 1954, researchers brought 2 groups of boys to a camp, kept them separate, then introduced them and watched chaos unfold. Rivalries, pranks, fistfights. Pure Lord of the Flies energy. Then the scientists staged crises like a fake water shortage, and only cooperation could fix them. Magically, the kids started working together. This experiment revealed how easily group conflict forms and how shared challenges can unite people. Or you know how to create a perfect recipe for reality TV. Number 10. The Pit of Despair. Sounds like a Harry Potter sequel, but nope. This was real. In the 1970s, psychologist Harry Harlow created a device called the Pit of Despair. His goal: to study depression. His method: horrifying. He took baby monkeys away from their mothers and put them in an isolated dark box for weeks. The results were as bleak as you'd expect. The monkeys became withdrawn, stopped eating, and some even refused to interact when let out. This study taught us how vital social bonds are for mental health, but at a massive ethical cost. Harlow's colleagues called the device the Dungeon of Doom. And yeah, that about sums it up. Today, this experiment is often held up as a never do this again example in ethics classes. So thanks, Harry, I guess. Number 11, the third wave. What if I told you a high school teacher accidentally created a mini dictatorship in 5 days? In 1967, Ron Jones was teaching about Nazi Germany when he started a classroom experiment. He enforced strict discipline, created a salute, and gave the group a name, the Third Wave. By day 5, the students had become disturbingly loyal, recruiting others and reporting dissenters. Jones ended it by revealing the lesson. This is how fascism happens. The scary part: it only took 1 week for teenagers to go full Gestapo. So yeah, maybe don't underestimate peer pressure. Number 12. The David Reimer Case. In the 1960s, psychologist John Money believed gender was entirely a social construct. So when a baby boy's botched circumcision left him without equipment, Money advised the parents to raise him as a girl. David Reimer grew up as Brenda, never knowing the truth. But by adolescence, he was deeply unhappy and eventually transitioned back to male after learning what happened. This case became infamous for showing how complex gender identity really is and how catastrophically wrong science experiments on actual humans can go. Tragically, David's life ended early, a haunting reminder of the cost of bad psychology. So, creepy science or pure insanity? You decide. If this blew your mind or slightly ruined your sleep, hit subscribe. More weird psychology and disturbing truths are coming.